Okay. Who were your early influences?
Well, my early influences, I would say Salgado's work at the gold mines in Brazil, Eugene Smith's Minamata, Japan photographs, which were the mercury poisoning photos.
Right.
Fan Ho, of course, Cartier-Bresson, and then a collection of Magnum photographers like Bruce Davison, Elliot Erwitt, and so on.
Yeah. How do you decide where you want to go and shoot?
Well, typically I usually select, I like more the underdeveloped nations. I like third world countries. I like to go outside my comfort zone, and I like the nostalgic look that I get from those images. For example, I'm hoping to plan a trip over to Eastern Europe soon, and I like cities that there hasn't been much change for 100 or more years. So I'm always looking for. I think what attracted me to this style of photography more than any other genre is the I've always been kind of a big history buff, and the way I see street photography as far as traveling and walking the streets and documenting is that I want this work to still hold up 100 years from now. I want people to be able to look at my work and see in an era of time.
Right. So would you say you're looking for timeless images or images that depict a particular time and place? In other words, like if there are cars or things that say, that will immediately date an image, except like in Havana where you see all these American cars from the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
But you're looking for a timeless kind of appearance. When you say that things haven't changed much in those cities over the years.
I think it's both. I think I'm attracted to both. I've been to Havana. Of course, you're going to publish a couple of those photos, but and then I love places that haven't changed. Or have changed very little, and then I love places that it doesn't look like there's going to be any change anytime soon.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? As Havana, like you could probably go to Havana 30 years from now, and it's still going to be those cars. It's still going to look the same way it probably looks today. So yeah, I really don't think about it in terms like, I'm looking for a timeless place, or I'm looking for a place that, still looks like it did or close to it, 100 years ago.
I guess what I'm asking is, when you compose, will you purposely avoid certain artifacts that might appear in the composition?
Well, no, I don't think it's something I avoid. I think it's something that I'm drawn to.
Okay.
So I don't consciously look and say, oh, there's something too modern looking in this background. I don't want it. No. I don't but I think I'm drawn to people, characters, architecture that I think I'm just drawn to it, and I know that's the photograph I want to make. I think the one thing that I always hear about my work, even though my pictures may have just been shot 2 or 3 years ago, is that people will look at my work and they'll say, your work looks like it could be from the 1960s.
Yeah.
And you just shot it, and it says 2017.
Right.
But if you put 1967 or 57 on it, I would believe it.
Right. Absolutely.
So again, it's just something that as I'm walking the streets in a town, in a city, I think it's something I'm drawn to. I don't specifically look to not have something in my photograph as much as I'm looking to have something in my photograph.
How about the man on the Havana street with his leg against the wall, shirtless?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. See, now that image, immediately as I'm walking down that street and I see him, I know and I can tell you right now at that time of morning that I was walking down that street, it was only me and him. And sometimes you cannot be invisible. As I'm approaching him, I'm of course I'm appearing as if I'm very interested in the architecture.
Uh-huh.
You see what I'm saying? I, in no way, shape, or form, for me, in order for me to get that picture, I have to be, um, I have to be a little quick with it, and I have to be intelligent in my approach. And so the whole time I'm really looking at this architecture, maybe snapping a couple of pictures, and then it's a quick, I know I only have one shot at it. Like if you look at my contact sheet, you're only going to see that one frame of him. Because with street photography, you only get one shot, right?
So he's looking down the street. You're the only other person on the street, but
Mm-hmm.
he's not looking at you or at the camera.
Nope.
So do you make
Nope.
contact and ask permission? Point at your camera as though to say, "Can I take your picture?"
Well,
Do that. Never do that.
Well, as street photographers, I never do that. I've never posed a picture, and I don't ask for permission. And the thing about that is, and of course, we always, I've done lectures, and you always have that question, like, do you ask permission? It's probably been said 1,000 times. Um, I don't, because if we think of street photography as an art, we have to think of it as exactly what it is. Once you ask permission, then you're making a portrait, right? If you're doing, now think about Cartier-Bresson's work, right? Could you imagine if Cartier-Bresson asked permission of his subjects? Like, all that great work we wouldn't have, right? So, in order to get those photographs, and if you're being true to the art form of street photography, then obviously you're not asking permission, because then that shot is not documented exactly how it was.
Uh-huh.
You understand what I'm saying? Once you ask permission, you have now changed that moment in time. You have interfered with that moment of time.
Right.
So now that shot is not a documented, really, if you think about it, it's not a documented era of time. Now it's and plus once you ask him, then now he wants to look at the camera. He doesn't quite know how to stand. He thinks he's posing for this portrait. Now the whole photograph is for naught, right? I mean, I might as well just keep on walking, because I'm no longer getting that shot, because it's now completely changed.
Right. I mean, I think there are street portraits that are also legitimate. They may not fit the criteria of being what you're calling true documents, but
Mm-hmm.
I have found, for instance, in Mexico, the women will put their hand over their face if they see the lens pointed at them.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in India, they were very welcoming,
Mm-hmm.
and while you might categorize some of the images as street portraits as opposed to documents, I wouldn't argue that point.
As a street photographer, you do have a responsibility to educate yourself on where you are shooting. And if you do encounter that situation that you were referring to in Mexico, then you should not be taking those photographs. There's a lot of photographs I do not take because the body language just, people can speak to each other with their body language.
Absolutely.
So this man we're talking about in Cuba, he saw that I'm literally taking photographs of architecture right next to him, and he had no problem with it.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? If he gave me the body language that he was not comfortable, if I got that body language, I would not have taken that photograph. So, I mean, there is a responsibility there, but if anyone was to suggest that because now you're saying now street photography would not exist if everything had to be permission. It just wouldn't. Now you're staging and you're creating. That's a different genre of photography. I think the rules we now have in place are good. Like, where you can't use somebody's face to advertise or sell a product, where you can't go on private property and take photos. I mean, I think the laws and rules that are in place now are good. If we go any further and we start, everything's got to be permission, now we're going to lose so much great work. And, it's just something that I think, I know there's a lot of photographers out there who, should have more, how should I say it? Should have more understanding or consideration. If I get any kind of body language, if I get any place where I see what I'm doing is not welcome, I don't do it. I don't force that.
Yeah.
But now, if you're going to just take away if you're going to pretty much take away street photography by restricting and even, having tougher laws, and now you can't. Now it's like we'll never see that work that hangs in the MoMA or these other fine institutions of Cartier-Bresson, of Bruce Davison on down the line. That kind of work could have never been done.
Right.
There's no
question that truly candid street photography,
yes,
has a great value and great tradition. I wouldn't argue that. Yeah, I was in 2019 in Tibet and Nepal and India, and the people were just so nice. Nobody bothered me. Nobody asked me not to shoot. Nobody put their hand over their face.
Right.
They were very flattered that I was paying them that attention.
I think every situation is different, But now, now if we're talking about street photography, like Mark Cohn or Bruce Gilden, where they're going in your face and flashing, it's pretty invasive, and they're doing that because they want to get a certain look from you. They want that look of shock,
right? Or anger, or whatever.
Now, everybody could have their opinion on that type of street photography, whether they, if that's crossing the line of street photography, and I'm not going to, I'll let everyone else decide how they feel about that kind of, let's say, in your face type of street photography.
Well, back to your shooting.
Uh-huh.
Where have your favorite locations been found?
Well, Havana is definitely one.
You shoot the video, because when I looked at your website, there was a video at the end that I thought you had shot. I wasn't sure if the computer just hooked me up with somebody, because there's so many videos of these cities online now where people just walk through the streets and record.
Right.
And I couldn't tell if it was your video or somebody else's.
That was my video. So that video, the way I did it was me actually walking the street, and then if you watch through it, you see a black and white photo taken every so often.
That's why I thought it was yours. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was actually walking the streets of Havana, and then was putting in my black and white work as I came across areas where I took that photograph.
Right. Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad you did. It's definitely good to hear.
Well, Billy Joe, let's talk a little bit about the images in the layout.
Okay.
It's the one of the van with the three guys on.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell me about that one. Where was that one shot?
Well, that was New York City. That was that was in 2004. So that image happened. Let me see. We invaded Iraq in 2003, I believe, and there were, in New York City, there were a lot of pro rallies, and there were a lot of demonstrations and protests against.
What was that one?
That was those workers were a pro rally. Well, I don't know. I don't know if there was an actual rally right there. But as I came walking down the street and I went around that corner, they were there, holding up the American flag.
All looking in different directions. The three people.
And you know what? That when you talk about, sometimes you just have to be lucky. When you do street photography, and there's no way in the world I could be telling them, hey, you look that way, you look this way. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes when you just capture that photograph and then they just do that on their own, I mean, had they all been like looking the same way, it probably wouldn't have been quite as strong.
Right.
But the fact that is what documents an era of time, right? That to me is timeless. Like
the guy at the military parade, is that where he is?
That was 2009 when I was there. Shot that. It was still called Veterans Day in London, and so I was going around, and they had military parades and all that. And I'm really picky when I shoot. I used to go out with a friend of mine, and we would be in, let's say, New Orleans, and we would both go off our own ways, and we would shoot, and we would set a time, and we would meet at that time at a bar and have a beer, right?
Uh-huh.
So we would go off, and we would shoot. I would come back. He would say he shot like 2.5, 3 rolls of film. And I'm like, man, I shot 20 exposures.
Uh-huh.
And we were gone for like 3 or 4 hours before we would actually meet back up. And I never understood how because I'm very selective with my eye. Like, I just don't go around shooting. I could walk somewhere. I could walk in a city, and it might be an hour to 2 hours in between frames before, because if I don't see what I believe will be a good shot, which is why I think contact sheets. I don't like that these young people also will never experience or have contact sheets.
Yeah.
Because what I will leave behind will be my contact sheets. And when you're able to look through somebody's contact sheet, you can see how good of a photographer they are.
Right.
You know, because you see what they were seeing on each frame. And yeah, you know, sometimes if you're in a really great place and there's some really good things happening, and you know, I might sit for a little bit and do 4 or 5 frames because I just really like the scene that's going on, you know. But then once I feel like that has been exhausted, I have to move on. And so anyways, getting back to my point. So I was in London, and so I'm walking around and I'm like, you know, I'm not seeing anything. And then there's this old man with some you know, a great nose, a great characteristics, and so you see the military personnel all lined up in the background.
Right.
So I needed his profile. Like, I knew what I needed. I knew I had a shot. I knew what I needed, but of course I'm not gonna like say, sir, you know, I'm not bothering him. If the man never turns to his right, I never get that photograph. So I'm just sitting there and I'll sit. I mean, sit, I was standing, but I'm just there. And I'm like, I have my camera down, and I'm looking like I'm shooting the parade down the way there, and sure enough, eventually he turns and looks to his side, and
Yeah.
that's all I needed. Once I got that one shot, and you'll see one frame, that's all I needed. You know, and one thing about doing street photography is you have to be able to anticipate shots. Like, you have to be able to. I will sit if I have a great background and I just need a certain person to come right into a certain alley where maybe they're getting backlit by his sun, and maybe I have this pigeon down on the left side, and maybe he'll, you know, if once I, you know, start to shoot, maybe I'll have the luck of him, you know, fluttering up or something at the same. I will sit if I have a good place, and sometimes it just never happens.
Yeah.
And I just spent an hour maybe of sitting there, but you know, I'm going to wait for a shot if the shot is there. If I see, you know, a buggy and a horse and they're coming down the street, I'm looking way ahead of them, right? I'm not going to just shoot the shot of the horse and buggy because there's a horse and buggy. I need a lot more, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to look to see what's down the street, which direction are they going, and what are they coming up to? Because there might be something phenomenal maybe about to kind of come together for me, you know? And sometimes you have the luck, and sometimes you don't.
Yeah. One is a girl walking into a doorway in front of a grated railing, and it looks like a dog behind her or a monkey behind her.
Oh, okay. That's in India. That's at a train station.
India trains.
So so
Okay.
this is a photograph that I definitely had to anticipate. I see this girl at the water fountain. Now, have you been to India?
Yes.
Okay, so you know monkeys pretty much have free range,
Yes.
right? Like, they're like everywhere. They like clean each other, they pick each other, they could sit on the bench next to you. They're just everywhere. So so I'm at this train station in Ahmadabad, and I see this girl at the water fountain. Now from a distance, I can see a monkey starting to walk towards her. So then I start walking from the opposite direction because I'm thinking, you know, what kind of picture might actually happen here. So I start walking along the ledge of the train rail so that I can have the distance where I can quickly turn and get this shot if this monkey does anything that might make the shot interesting.
Uh-huh.
So I walk along the train line as I'm watching this, and I'm doing it very nonchalantly. I'm walking along. I see the monkey getting closer to the girl. So now I'm in a position where once the monkey comes into my frame, I I can have both the monkey and girl in the frame. So as luck would have it, and this shot probably doesn't work unless this happens. As luck would have it, right when I went up to take the shot, the girl and the monkey look at me at the same time.
Right.
I mean, that for me to have that kind of luck, if only the girl looks at me but the monkey doesn't, it's not as strong.
Right.
Right? If the monkey looks at me and the girl doesn't, well, it might be a little nice, but it's not as strong. But the fact that they both turned, that actually made the photograph.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Rather than her looking straight ahead or
Right.
fountain.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like they both did it simultaneously. I mean, it's just yeah. I mean, that's you know, you need luck.
Yeah.
I don't care how much skill or how good of an eye you have or how great your skill set is and anticipating and framing. If you don't have luck, you've got to have luck in a lot of great photographs.
Well, it's also the prepared mind.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, you're prepared for something lucky to happen.
Yeah, you create your own luck. Your own luck. Right.
So in that sense, right, you've anticipated a moment and then got lucky.
Yeah.
But you anticipated the moment for the luck.
Right. Yep.
Now,
Exactly.
In the next one, the little boy sits with a goat, a black goat, on a step. Maybe his sister or there's a little girl who's looking at you.
I'm up in Islamabad, from Pakistan, and I'm walking through this town called Wa Village, and so as I'm walking through this town, I see the boy holding the goat. At this time I don't see the girl, right? Because the girl's not there. So I come up, the boy's holding the goat, he's looking out, and again, just as I'm ready to bring my camera up, his sister comes peeking around the corner and just happens to place her finger on her lip. And in that moment, I was able to capture that one shot. And yeah, if it was just the environmental portrait of the boy with the goat and the long high doorway, okay, that's a nice portrait. But
Right.
the fact that his sister comes around the corner and does that with her hand position to her face, I mean, that all of a sudden that took a nice portrait that maybe 100 years from now people, that was a nice portrait 100 years ago of the boy and the goat in Pakistan. But now they see this girl and now it looks like more of a painting, right? Now it looks more like a painting. And when you can get those kind of shots, I mean, again, I mean, it's just you get
it's beautiful, and the look on the boy's face really is quite beautiful, I think.
Mhm.
The way he's holding the goat.
Yep.
Very sweet.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great shot. And where's the boy playing soccer? Or with the soccer ball on the street?
Havana.
Havana?
Yep.
And what year was that?
2017.
2017. Okay.
Yeah, as far as the boy with the soccer ball, it's pretty it is what it is, but what makes it nice is I was looking to capture that soccer ball in between those legs and the kick, right? So you're looking for that one, as Cartier-Bresson, called it.
Moment, yeah.
Yeah, that one decisive moment where if that ball is just not in between, perfectly those two legs, then it's a completely different picture.
It's also the massive black windows behind him, and he's so small.
Yeah, right. The scale of it, right.
The stripes in the wall and the stripes in his bathing suit. Shorts kind of echo each other nicely.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a nice shot.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, Billy Joe, I really appreciate you doing this and your time today.